Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Y'all having a good time? Awesome. That's what I love to hear. Thank you so much for coming out today. I have a really, really exciting talk coming up for you next. We have Maya Griesbaum, who is a student at Georgia Tech in the Material Science Engineering Department, and she is making clothing out of mushrooms. And she has come to go and give her talk on how she's doing that and everything else in between and creating sustainability using mushrooms as an alternative to traditional types of fashion. So, if you will, let's give it up for Maya. And if you got to speak into the mic, otherwise people won't hear you.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, I'm Maya Griesbaum, a student of the School of Material Science and Engineering at Georgia Tech, and founder of the startup Mycorrhiza Fashion. We're focusing on creating a leather alternative derived from fungi and textile waste. More specifically, we are exploring the remediation properties of fungi in order to ameliorate current environmental conditions. So we all know the world is currently facing climate turmoil. Simply put, Earth is on fire. We have exited the state of global warming, and according to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, we have entered the era of global boiling. However, with the inundation of apocalyptic-sounding news headlines, it's becoming more daunting to think of how we could solve this seismic issue. However, we are also aware of the fact that the climate crisis is caused and catalyzed by human-made pollution, with the UNEP citing the third largest contributor to this pollution is fast fashion industry, accounting for nearly 10% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, which equates to around 1.2 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents emitted into the atmosphere each year. Oh no. That's okay. Well, although the public is aware fast fashion industries are dependent on petroleum material, animal cruelty, and labor exploitation, many just can't seem to find a humane, sustainable alternative. That's why my team, Mycorrhiza Fashion, a collective of mycologists, material science students, and biofashion designers, have chosen to engender a mycelium textile, allowing anyone to express themselves while respecting the environment and the people living in it. So, Okay, so before I delve further into what Mycorrhiza Fashion is working on, let's talk about... No worries. What mycelium is. So, mycelium is the vegetative or non-reproductive part of a fungus. People often mistakenly conflate mycelium with mushroom. One analogy that is used to illustrate the anatomical difference between mycelium and mushrooms is to compare it to an apple tree. So if we think of a fungus as an apple tree, the mycelium would be comparable to the roots, bark, and branches of the apple tree, where the mushroom, or fruiting body, of the fungi is comparable to the apple of the apple tree. So the mycelium is more so the precursor to a mushroom. While both could coexist in the fungus, similar to how the roots, bark, and branches of an apple tree can coexist with the apple. So one amazing feat that mycelium is capable of performing is called mycoremediation. And if you haven't heard about mycoremediation, this is gonna blow your mind. So mycoremediation is the process in which fungi is able to detoxify and remove certain contaminants within the environment. So basically, it's cleaning the environment via eating garbage. And you might say, so how does this work? Nature has equipped mycelium with certain enzymatic machinery in which its digestive enzymes, or naturally occurring compounds that break down said pollutants, are able to take in materials such as petroleum and make it so the environment is able to reabsorb. Another properties that companies are currently capitalizing are constructual and mechanical properties. So right now, companies like Ecovative, Mogu, and MycoWorks are working with mycelium due to their heat resistance, moisture resistance, dyeability, increased tensile strength in composite materials to create products such as construction materials, acoustic paneling, and even packaging. But in my case, for Mycorrhiza Fashion, we're capitalizing on mycelium by creating wearable fungi fabrics, such as the top that I'm wearing today. So, thank you. So, as of right now, the approach we're taking is different than what other companies are taking, and the fact that it's more active. So as opposed to creating a purely bio-based material, which is fantastic in the fact that it's not further contributing to environmental degradation, we are creating a textile that is made from textile waste that we introduce a fungi to so that it's able to be safely reabsorbed into the environment. So we are working alongside nature to engineer the newest patterns and textures of fungi fabrics, such as the ones that you see on the screen. So in terms of progress, right now we're doing research with polyesters because it's the most detrimental to the environment. The most ubiquitous form of textile waste is polyester, which accounts for nearly 52% of global fiber production, and has both detrimental human and environmental effects, including neoplasia, disrupted endocrine dysfunction, and contaminated terrestrial and aquatic biomes. So right now, this image on the top right corner depicts a textile that was inoculated with a white rot fungi. And as you can see, those long branches are the polyester fiber, and that smaller network of tubular filaments is the mycelium growing through it, which is really exciting. And so then the picture below it depicts one of our samples that we've tested for dyeability, and you can see that it's successfully dyed yellow with natural dyes such as turmeric. So this semester also marked success in terms of customer discovery. We have our first paying customers, and they have used mycorrhiza material in such applications as garments like you see here, in skirts and belts. Another person at Georgia Tech, an ID student, had made a toolbox that was lined in mycorrhiza leather, and then we had another graduate student make shoes that had accent pieces that was made from mycorrhiza leather. So we are still learning all the ways in which our material could be used, which is very exciting. And so with this, our short-term goal is to demonstrate that selective mycelia have the potential to engender a new textile, and then also long-term licensing mycorrhiza material to companies and creatives focusing on the soft goods design space. So right now, if you would like to join the mycorrhiza community and support us, there are a few different ways in which you could do so. One being is to join as a researcher. We are constantly looking for people to join the team in terms of wet lab research, also as designers to determine different applications in which mycorrhiza material can be used. And even anyone who's a fungi enthusiast would honestly have a lot of fun learning about the microremediation properties of our material, as well as mentoring. So if you are familiar with manufacturing and biomaterials, mycology, biology, we would love to receive guidance from you. And then, of course, as any other business, we need funding to continue. So as of right now, we are receiving funding through the Presidential Undergraduate Research Award at Georgia Tech in order to conduct research, but further funding would be used for intellectual property protecting purchase, and then you could also support us financially by purchasing some of our prototypes and or SEM prints, which I will further explain if you meet me at the tabling afterwards. So The fourth point isn't necessarily mycorrhiza related. However, if you would like to support the mission of Mycorrhiza, you could do so by first empathizing with nature. This could look like coming to events such as the Atlanta Mushroom Festival, or even just going outside to admire nature's beauty. And so with that, as mycorrhiza denotes a symbiotic relationship between plants and fungi, Mycorrhiza Fashion is trying to foster a connection between plants, fungi, and humans in order to grow a sustainable future. So thank you. Yeah. If you have any questions about the material, I would love to answer them. Yes. Okay, so right now we're repurposing textile waste. So our fungi is grown into polyesters, and then it's going through processing. Yes, with other natural materials. So such as beeswax to seal it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wait, how can you get mycorrhiza material as of right now? Okay, so as of right now, we're still very much in the research and development phase. However, some people have come to me to purchase prototypes. So if you're interested in doing that for applications such as shoes, I would be more than willing to collaborate with you on that. Of course. Yes, so if you scan that QR code, it will take you to my website, and there are pre-orders to SEM images. And if you would like to collaborate on a project, there's a space for you to ask for that as well. Yes.
And so there are mushroom leathers that are made exclusively from mycelium. And then this is more of a colonized material. You're using material as a scaffold. What's the difference in durability and pliability of these textiles compared to what's already kind of out there on the market?
So as of right now, we're still conducting research to get quantitative data on the mechanical properties of the material. However, I will say that a lot of mushroom leathers currently out there are either sealed with or otherwise contain petroleum-derived materials, which is counterintuitive to making a sustainable product. So that's why we're trying to avoid that at all costs, and then recycle or repurpose the materials already occupying landfills. Yes. Can you say that again? Okay, so you were asking if this is better to buy than secondhand leather. I would encourage thrifting. I would encourage thrifting. Otherwise, it's going to the landfill anyways. This is just another avenue to purchase sustainable materials. And hopefully, so with the long-term vision for this is to license the material to fashion companies to incorporate in their own garments so that if you were to purchase new, it would still be sustainable. Yes. Biofuel? Oh, I'm unfamiliar with biofuels, so I am not sure. I'm not sure on that one. I'm sorry. Any other questions about mycorrhiza? Yes. Can you repeat that? Or do you want to? Okay.
So you mentioned the harmful effects of the polyester supply chain. Would you say the majority of that takes place at the beginning of the manufacture line when it's being produced, or at the ends when it's being generating waste?
So at both stages in production, it's horrendous for the environment, whether it's emitting air pollution during its production, and then the solid municipal waste generated once it's disposed is also horrendous for the environment. So that's why we're also trying to act as a form of waste management, intercepting fast fashion companies, because right now they're paying third parties to basically take their waste off their hands. And so if we were to come in acting as a form of waste management, they would essentially be paying us for our base materials, and we would be mitigating textile pollution from reaching landfills.
So this is mostly using materials that are already formed. Is there any way you could take raw fiber and then colonize it and then recreate that into thread that you could then use to build new materials?
Okay, so we are actually exploring mycelial yarn, but in terms of, I think, are you asking an amalgamated material of fibers with mycelium grown into it? We've also experimented with that. So if you are unfamiliar, fast fashion companies, there are different forms of textile waste. There's pre-consumer and post-consumer. And we've worked with pre-consumer textile waste in its form that you would usually see, where it's a woven fabric, as well as post-consumer, trying to basically string together different damaged materials to see if mycelium could essentially re-sew it together. And I have samples downstairs if anyone would like to see some too. Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so I was doing mycology research for around 3-ish, 4-ish years now. So it started with microremediation in aquatic environments, where we looked at how different species of fungi were able to depollute pond water that had been contaminated with model pollutants like motor oil. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. So I still wanted to work in the field of mycology, but I was more fascinated with creating a material out of it. So this fashion idea wasn't the first. And initially, I thought that I was going to be making camping gear that was made out of mycelium, and then pivoted more towards biofashion due to my sister being, or both my sisters being really into fashion, and that influenced me to get into it. And then I transitioned to working with biomaterials like SCOBY vinyls and algae skirts, etc. But then realized that was a very passive approach in dealing with the global climate crisis, and again, didn't directly address textile waste that's occupying landfills. Yes. Yes, and there are current microremediation efforts of people introducing mycelium into landfills to reverse environmental damage. Yes? The texture is most comparable to leather at the moment. However, we are experimenting with creating materials more comparable to a vinyl, but that's more in the future. Say that again? Yes, you are able to manipulate the texture of the material based on the substrate, so both the food that you're giving it and then also the textile waste in which it's growing on. Yeah, so as of right now, again, primarily focusing on polyester being the most detrimental to the environment, but also working with like polycotton blends like denim. Hmm. I'm thinking more along the lines of mass production, and I'm looking at models where Ecovative, Design, Mogu, MycoWorks, they're producing at the same rate. So that doesn't seem to be an issue that I foresee. Mhm. Um, okay. Oh, okay. That's a good question. So once the material has done, well, we after a certain amount of time for incubation, we then kill the organism. So it goes through a dehydrating process and a heat pressing process, so that you don't have to worry about the mycelium continuing to grow or shed any spores, because since it is mycelium, you haven't gotten to the fruiting body stage, so you wouldn't have to worry about spore shedding anyways. And then in order to process the material, it undergoes plasticizing, and a lot of people kind of cringe or wince at the word because they're like, why are you introducing plastic? But it's natural plasticizers like vegetable glycerins, and then cross-link the material to make it more durable, and then we seal it with a natural sealant, such as beeswax. Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay, so right now, for example, the top that I made, all of these are, well, a fun fact, all these are circular pieces because we were originally growing in Petri dishes. But it was incubated for about a month, so the mycelium was growing onto the textile for around a month, and then it took 2 to 3 days to process. But bear in mind that time is on the schedule of a college student who has a full course load, so I predict that the time to be shortened once at scale. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, so right now, again, we're still performing mechanical testing to quantify the mechanical properties such as durability. We did perform some abrasion testing last semester, and it's held its own. Like this top that I'm wearing right now, I made in April of last year, and it still holds up well. So not with the washing machine. As of right now, you would clean it more comparable to a leather where it's spot cleaned. Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay, that is hard to quantify at the moment, only because, again, I'm working on student hours, so it's hard to factor in the cost of labor. However, if we, again, were to execute this as a full business and act as a form of waste management for textile company or fast fashion companies to pay us for our base material, we would be able to compete with other fast fashion companies. Oh, well, sorry, I phrased that wrong, but was that coherent? Yes, okay, awesome. Yes. Okay, so as of right now, we have dyed it with turmeric, and that has been pretty much the extent of dyeability. We really didn't want to mess with the aesthetic too much, because after hearing from our customers, one of their most valued qualities of the material was that it was imbued in nature's beauty. So they really like the natural aesthetic. So yeah, we wanted to retain that. Yes. Yeah. wait, did you have a question? Oh, okay. I love your hat, by the way. Yes, of course. Okay. Well, if there's no more question, oh, yes. Is the what? Okay, so dyeing would be right after dehydration. We would dye it and then we would process the material. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yes, if you would like to see some of the samples, I will be downstairs with them later. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to my presentation.